All right, hello, welcome. Another EdTechTeam live event. This time we are going to have the pleasure of getting some time up close and personal with the four fabulous keynote speakers that we have for our two big weekends of the California Summit, which is coming up at the end of July and then the start of August. So I'm really excited about getting you guys the opportunity to hear a little bit about their stories and what excites them about education and what you might be able to learn from them if you join us at the summit. My name's Kimberly Hall. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, and I'm going to be hosting the second weekend of the summit. And I'm currently enjoying this beautiful summer weather in Irvine, California. It's winter back home, so I'm very grateful to be in the temperature here. I actually have no idea what it is in Fahrenheit, but I know it's really warm in Celsius. So thank you, California, for your weather. I'm excited about being part of the summer and enjoying that weather at the summit as well. All right, I'm just going to hand over to, we might start with you, Jenny. If you just want to introduce yourself very quickly and maybe just tell us a fun fact about Jennie Magiera that people may not know.
Oh, wow. Fun fact. Well, I will tell you that I just Googled and it is 77 degrees Fahrenheit in Irvine, California currently. And what is that, 25 Celsius, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I'm really terrible at the conversions.
It's hot. So I'm from Chi-Town, Chicago, Illinois. Currently I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for a school district on the north side of Chicago. But July 1, I'm moving over to EdTechTeam to work with all of these fun folks. I'm really pumped about joining Team Fun, Awesome Education Inspiration. A fun fact about me is that I was a varsity weightlifter in high school.
Really? That is something I definitely did not know.
Yeah, I was a varsity weightlifter. I was on the girls lacrosse team, and Title IX was being passed and enforced quite a bit in Florida, and so they lickety-split create a bunch of girls sports teams, and the entire girls lacrosse team was voluntold to be on the weightlifting team. So I was like struggling to lift the bar, but I was like, I did it. I lettered in weightlifting. So everyone watch out at the summit. If anyone wants to arm wrestle, I'm there. I'll lose,
all right,
but I'm there.
That's a new lunchtime activity for weekend one is arm wrestles with Jennie Magiera. All right, awesome. Thanks, Jenny. We might hand over to Ken. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a fun fact that we may not know about you as well?
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Ken Shelton, and I'm also with EdTechTeam. And a fun fact about me that you all don't know, that's a hard one, but I would say that, oh, I know one that you all probably don't know, especially those of you that know me. I can't remember the years, but I actually have been on 3 different dating game shows. So that's a fun fact that you all may not know.
That is awesome, and everybody, I'm glad, had their microphones muted because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to hear you talk. Can you tell us the 3 game shows, what they were?
Yeah, so I went on The Big Date, The Dating Game when that came back around, and actually it never made it on the air. I don't know if you all remember Singled Out on MTV. So there's a fun fact that I know a lot of people don't know.
And the million-dollar question is, did you meet your lovely wife, Leslie, on any of those shows?
No.
I have to say I'm not surprised to hear that, but I did very much enjoy that fun fact, so thank you, Ken. Rafranz, I'm going to hand over to you. Just you want to introduce yourself, and you don't have to share something as fabulously hilarious as Ken's fun fact, but anything that you have that you'd like to share that people may not know about you as a means of getting to know you a bit.
You know, I definitely have never been on a dating show, but Rafranz Davis, and I'm from a small town south of Dallas called Ennis, Texas. And let's see, I think my life is almost an open book, but probably one fact that most people don't know is I still play jazz flute and a lot of orchestra pieces. So there you go.
That's awesome. So maybe day one of weekend one is arm wrestles with Jennie Magiera, and day two, lunchtime, Rafranz, you're going to do a little bit of jazz flute for us?
I absolutely will not. I still do it. It has now gone to private. I used to play in public all the time, but I actually haven't played in public in probably 11 years.
Oh, wow. I think it's awesome that you keep it up. I know that that's something that I keep thinking that I'm going to keep playing the instruments that I learned for many, many years. And yeah, they're gathering a little bit of dust. So that's awesome for you. All right. And lastly, we have Mr. Rushton Hurley.
Hey, so my name is Rushton Hurley. I am a former Japanese language teacher, former principal, and I run a little Save the World nonprofit now. And I guess a fun fact would be that I juggled my way through South Asia about 26 years ago. And, you know, I was traveling from place to place, and while I couldn't speak, you know, Thai or Nepali or Hindi or any of those, I figured out that, you know, like, kids would respond well if you just juggle. So I juggle. Another fun fact would be that I married way up. So there you go.
That's awesome. So when you mean juggle, do you mean literally like round things thrown in the air?
Absolutely. Yeah, there are people who can juggle pins. I'm not one of them.
Okay, so we've just worked out our lunchtime entertainment for weekend two. So we're going to have some juggling with Rushton. Can you run some lessons, maybe, Rushton, on some juggling? And Ken's going to set up a singles matchmaking activity, maybe lunchtime day one of weekend two. So lots of extracurricular activities looks like we're having at the California Summit this year as well. All right, awesome. Thanks, guys, for the introductions. It's really great to get a little bit of an insight into who you are beyond the face that we see on stage. I guess we want to sort of deviate now into a little bit about you in the education space. So something about, like, let's hear, we'll go around again, something that excites you about education. Maybe what was the inspiration that got you into teaching and education in the first place? Or, you know, what's ultimately like your big vision? What would you love to see and be able to affect change in relation to education? I know they were all three pretty huge questions. So does anyone want to volunteer to take that on first?
I'll go first. I think for me, the big thing that got me into education was thinking about who I was as a student. And, you know, I was that quiet kid that sat in the back that was silently smart. But I did have some unfortunate experiences with teachers who either accused me of cheating because clearly I was not smart enough to get, I guess, the scores that they thought that I didn't deserve to get, or that I wasn't smart enough to be in the classroom at all. And so those kind of experiences really did kind of really make me think about getting into education. The interesting thing was my mother was in education, and because of that, and because of her dragging me, you know, as a middle school kid to tutor high school kids, that was like the last thing on my list of things to do. I had 8 other things ahead of education, but when it came down to it and I started tutoring again in college, I started meeting more students with similar backgrounds that I had, and realized that as I was helping them, perhaps this was something that I needed to think about if I wanted to kind of change the system, because it sucked then, and honestly, it still sucks now. So I think right now what motivates me is to change that, you know, the inequity that exists for kids who get to be seen or heard versus the ones who don't. And the fact that we still have to have these conversations. I think right now that motivates me more than anything to stay in education and not leave.
That's awesome, Rafranz. That's so powerful. And I'm sure that everybody who watches this will be able to relate on some small level to that story, such a personal level. So thank you for sharing it. And I personally am really grateful that you're still passionate about education and don't want to leave, because education needs people like you who are that passionate. Maybe Rushton, I know you had your hand up. You want to jump in next?
Happy to do so. Several things. I mean, one is that I'm really excited about kind of what kind of things are possible now. You know, the kinds of enthusiasm that I see from teachers. I work, you know, with a group here, a wonderful set of folks here in Little Rock today, And we were talking about, how we can use these different tools to get kids who other teachers have kind of written off. Oh, that kid's a problem. That kind of stuff. Getting that kid to say, oh, I'm excited about this. How do you kind of convince somebody who doesn't seem to be on the track, to be successful, in a school setting, to stop and say, no, I want to learn more about that. And there's just so many opportunities to learn cool things now. So when I got into teaching, I was a Japanese language teacher, right? Which is a really fun thing to teach, because the kids come in with no preconceptions about their abilities, right? They just know they like cartoons. That was what they got them through the door. And so I just loved working with all of these kids who were like, yeah, are we gonna watch anime in the class? I'm like, no, but we're gonna do tons of homework. It'll be great. They're like, But still, like a really, really cool group of kids. They had so much fun with it. I was selected as one of the original Google certified teachers, and I think what happened was they're like, check this application. White boy teaches Japanese. Let him in. So I think that's what happened. Right? And regardless, it's just seriously fun. I think on a personal level, I think that in addition to the opportunities that we have with the tools that are now available, we have that opportunity to tell the stories of what's possible. And so that's where I think Rafranz's story becomes such a big, powerful part of who we are. If we can get into that space where we can point out the schools where things are going the right way, where kids are being brought into success in ways that they haven't been before, and we're taking a good long look at who we are as teachers, as people who can make that happen. And I think that's exciting.
Yeah, I love that line that you said, the stories of what's possible, because we often do spend a lot of time talking about what's not possible or seems too hard in education, and that what's possible is such an important story to share as well. All right, Jennie, hand over to you.
I think something I'm excited about, I'm going to save the why I got into education for later, because that's part of my keynote, but something I'm excited about right now is looking beyond the standards for what we're spending our time helping our kids learn to do during school. We have them for a lion's share of their waking hours for so many years. And I think while we need to be teaching them foundational skills so they can be successful in playing the game of life and mastering Western society and doing what everyone says you need to do to be job eligible, so they have those opportunities, at the same time, I see a lot of schools, my former school being one of them, trying to build the attitudes and soft skills for them to be voices of change now. So, we always ask our kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And folks like Google's Jamie Cassip says, what problems do you want to solve when you grow up? I want to ask our kids, what do you want to do now? What do you want to change now? And who do you want to be now? Not in 10 years from now or 5 years from now or after you graduate from university, but what are the current issues that you're facing, and how can we empower you to have an effect on it? One big example is the school that I taught in for a decade. They're threatening to close it for really disgusting reasons that are based on class and race. And the biggest advocates of that school have been the students. It's not the parents, it's not the teachers, it's not the principal. The reason that the news and folks are coming out to all of these community hearings are because the kids have taken so much agency in fighting for their school and are so well spoken. And the reason those kids are doing that is because their teachers every day don't limit their education to mastering standards, phonetics, arithmetic, and science. They also teach the kids that their voice matters and teach them how to speak in a way that their voice will be amplified and resonate. And I think that is incredible, and that is something that we could give to every child. And schools, no matter the background and class of the kids, need to be better at thinking, how are we empowering our kids? Because I think every society's goal is for our kids to be better than our current generation. And if we want our kids to be better than the current generation, we need to teach them to start fighting for their communities now and not after their full size.
Thanks, Jennie. That's awesome. And I love that concept of being the voices of change and driving that as well. I'm just writing some notes about all three of your ideas so far. I'm thinking, gosh, if we could somehow bottle that, the three of you have talked about already, and we could push that out into every school globally, imagine the amazing places that would be. And All right, Ken, handing over to you.
Yeah, all three of those were fantastic ideas, among other things. But that's also why, for me, and I'll get into some of the questions that you've asked. That's why, for me, every opportunity I have to listen to, Rafranz, Rushton, Jennie, or even just in casual conversation is always, the time is always such a privilege, because being able to share ideas, thoughts, accomplishments, challenges, and things of that nature, that I think a lot of times for educators, we don't have a sounding board to do that, because in many cases we work in isolation at our schools. And, a lot of times teachers don't realize that some of the challenges that they have to overcome, maybe even the teacher right next door has some of those same challenges, and that they don't work together to try to help overcome them. But at any rate, to answer part of your question, one of the reasons why I got involved in education, one of the big reasons was because in my entire schooling, I only had one teacher from K through 12 that looked like me. So I already knew that there was a gross disparity, the inclusive nature of having a broad representation along race lines of teachers, and sadly, nothing's changed. But I do think that in the process of doing what we do and being given the opportunities that I've been given, as well as earned to be in front of folks, to talk to folks, to talk about, some of the cultural differences that exist with students, and, to at least try to emphasize the need for having speakers that represent a degree of more inclusion rather than exclusion. My motivation for what I do that has transcended what originally brought me into education in the first place. So it's kind of along the lines of what everyone has already said. I do, what really excites me is the fact that we have unprecedented accessibility to mechanisms for, sharing of our voices, amplification of our voices. And I want to say that is definitely a part of a newer keynote that I did yesterday in Colorado, and I'll be doing again tomorrow. It's not tomorrow, in 2 days in Indiana. And it's just how can we leverage technology for representation of our voice, so that, even the student that's in the back of the room that never raises their hand, they can be heard as well.
I love that, Ken, and I love that you segued beautifully into the last thing that we were going to talk about, which is around the key messages or things that people will learn when they get the opportunity to learn with you and from you at the summit. So I'm excited about hearing that there's some of those new ideas in your new keynote. I love the idea of amplifying our voices and our inclusion rather than exclusion as well. Did you want to share one fun thing, Ken, just from you around one of your favorite sessions that people might get the opportunity to attend at weekend 2 of the summit as well?
Wait, can you repeat that, please?
I was just wondering if you have a favorite session or something else that people might get the opportunity to learn from you at the summit.
Well, technically, all the sessions I do are my favorites, but but I will say any session that involves, visual storytelling and photography and video, which I want to say that's pretty much all of my sessions. I have so much fun doing those things, because it helps provide educators a platform to recognize that we do have a variety of ways in which we can express knowledge, understanding, and stories. And I love exposing teachers to may not have originally thought of it being possible, that it is in fact possible. So I would say probably my sessions that involve animations and video are definitely going to be my top ones that I'll be doing.
Awesome, thank you. And we might stay on weekend 2 and hand over to you, Rushton. So Ken and Rushton are our keynotes for weekend 2. So Rushton, if you wanted to share just a little bit of like the message of your keynote and what people can expect to get to learn with you at weekend 2 of the California Summit.
So we'll be talking about all kinds of ways that learning can become far more powerful as stories for the school and for the community. I think there are some ideas there about how we connect with the best part of ourselves that that might be of interest to attendees. In terms of sessions, I would say that one session I'm doing is called 4 Fun, Quick, and Powerful Ways to Start Class. You know, if we're going to make the most of our time in class, you know, then getting off to a good start is important, right? And so we talk about some activities for doing that the folks who have come to that session over the past couple of months have responded real well to. So, you know, we'll do that. And I'll toss one other in there. I do one called Much Better Staff and Team Meetings, which sounds tedious and deadly boring. And yet, you know, like every time we do it, I got a packed room and we actually have a lot of fun with it, because, you know, I think staff meetings are one of those points that we encounter professionally that can be far more powerful for what we do and how we see ourselves, especially as a team. So I hope that people are excited about the cool things that we learn. Every time I come to a summit, you know, and I'm a part of it, I feel like, you know, I'm getting to meet all kinds of wonderfully interesting people with cool ideas, and jazzed to do it again in Mountain View coming up in just about 6 weeks or so.
Awesome, thank you, Rushton. And yes, meetings were always my favorite part of being a classroom teacher. So maybe I need to attend that session as well. Sounds good. We might hand over to Rafranz. We've also got a question that came in from Mike, who's watching the YouTube stream, around whether for Jennie and Rafranz, whether there's anything in terms of items or information that people can bring to the summit to enhance their workshop experiences with you. So if you just,
definitely,
you know, probably
so other than an open mind, I think probably the session that I'm looking most forward to isn't even the keynote. It's the one on machine learning and kind of implications of it. I think we're going to do some fun stuff, because I know Google has integrated a lot of AI and machine learning into its product line. But I think that to have that conversation without talking about implications is negligent. So there are several different Medium articles that there's one that I was reading today that I need to share. And there's a couple, and I'm not saying you need to read them, but you know what? If we're going to have a discussion, at least for 10 minutes of it, then maybe kind of looking at the cultural implications of what machine learning means. Because I think the more that we integrate these tools into our classrooms, especially when you're talking about facial recognition that can look at a user, a student, or whomever, and provide an experience based on a facial expression. I think it's important to talk about kind of the bias that's inherent in that, at the same time, the importance of the existence of those tools. So, I mean, open mind, but if you really want to get bonus points, then look out for the articles that I'm going to share, because I think that they're going to be pretty important.
It's so funny, Rafranz, that I didn't know that you do that session. I just went to a lecture with the University of Chicago professor Matt Gee and Neil Stevenson from IDEO, talking exactly about the consequences. It was called Creativity in the Age of Robots and what happens with machine learning. But for those watching, and for you, Rafranz, and maybe it seems like you're the expert on this, but if you haven't read this yet, I thought this was probably the most interesting part. He suggested reading What Technology Wants by Kevin Kelly. And have you seen that one? I had never heard of it before.
I've heard of that one. There's that one, and there's another one that I actually learned about at TED, and just kind of, you know, set it off to the side as, I'm interested in that much later. And then I watched a big Adobe event, because they have one of the biggest kind of machines. There's like right now, there are certain shopping centers that you can go to. If you stand at it, it looks at who the person is and then changes the entire advertisement based on the person standing there. And I'm looking at this, all of course, white dudes in the audience are cheering because this is awesome. And I'm looking at this going, do they not have people that tell them that there are probably going to be issues with this long term? So yeah, that one is on my actual Amazon list.
That's awesome. And that I can't believe that there's shopping centers like that. That's literally a scene from Minority Report, remember? And I was like, oh yes. God, that'll be awful when that happens. And it's happening.
Exactly
there have been products that have tried to come into education to do that over the last few years. The ones that are supposed to be like embedded within the software, where they can scan the whole class and look at it and tell whether or not what a student thinks about a topic based on their expression. And the problem with that is, if y'all only knew how many times I get told that I need to smile or that my face looks like I'm unhappy when I am really happy. It's just crazy that this is what we've gone to, but it's not going away. Everything that we do with technology at this point in time, whether we know it or not, involves some type of artificial intelligence or machine learning, and it's a part of it. And we need to talk about it, and the good and the bad. So clearly, I'm excited about that. We can do a whole hangout just on that.
That's awesome. Rafranz, can I just ask, just for people, will you tweet that out? Is connecting with you on Twitter the best way to get those resources?
Yes, because I mean, I'm terrible with email. If any of you've emailed me, you know that. So definitely, I will tweet it out. And probably a lot more today in the next few weeks. I probably need a hashtag of some type. I think there's an event hashtag for this, right? So I'll use the event hashtag for this, and I'll definitely share out as many of those articles, and in case you're videos, in case you're interested.
Awesome, thank you. I want to go to that session now too. Looks like I'm just attending sessions now at the event, which is awesome. So Jennie, we'll hand over to you just to finish us up around some of the things that we can learn from you at the summit.
I'm going to learn how to unmute your microphone on a Hangout. I think in response to the question about things to bring challenges that you want to solve. I think coming into summits, everyone uses that phrase of drinking from a fire hose. If you come in saying, like, if I leave having ideas for this one big challenge or two big challenges, you're going to definitely leave still feeling a little bit like, fire hosed or whatever the verb would be, after having drunk from that and having so many great ideas and that deluge of inspiration. But with that being said, if you come in with a laser-like focus of like, I'm really trying to find a way to teach 37 kids math in 45 minutes. It could be like a really specific problem like that, or it could be, I'm trying to find a way to breathe excitement and life back into my classroom. I've been teaching for 25 years. I've been doing the same lessons, and I want to be pumped about something new. I'm trying to find something new. So if you come in with that, even though you're going to hear all these different ideas, you're going to have a laser-like focus throughout each session. And what I like to liken it to is going to a summit is sort of like listening to 45 radio stations at the same time. If you go with a focus, it's like having a tuner dial that you're tuning into one frequency at all times. So even though I'm at Kimberly's like rockin' session and she's throwing idea after idea that's like mind-blowing and amazing, because I'm listening with a focus of differentiation or meeting my kids' needs in a finite number of minutes, I'm going to take away different things from her session that I would if I was just like, I'm here, give it to me. And so I find myself going to events like this way more comfortable leaving and feeling like I actually have something that I know exactly what I'm going to do on Monday when I go with a focus, and especially if it's problem-based. With that being said, a session that I'm really excited about presenting is one around how to make PD suck less. I think it's called PD is not a 4-letter word, and it's about using the tenets of hands-on exploration, play-based learning that we think are right for our kids with our colleagues. And it doesn't matter if you're a classroom teacher, a principal, or a district administrator, or even the school secretary. Like, these are ideas that we can certainly use with each other. And I've really been excited about that challenge-based model for adults to make sure that we're engaged in our learning. I mean, we spend a lot of time as teachers figuring out, I hope we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to make learning better for our kiddos. I hope that you feel at the summit that the team has spent a lot of time making learning fun for you. And we want to give you the tools to be able to share and pay forward that excitement and play-based learning model in your own home settings. So come with challenges, and I'm really excited about my my PD session. Yeah, staff meetings.
Awesome. I think that's such an important thing, because you're totally right. We do spend a lot of time thinking about in our schools about ways to engage our kids, and then we get up in front of staff sometimes and just assume that they're going to be engaged because we're talking. At the end of a school day, it's not necessarily that easy to be engaged in anything. So I think we can definitely engage in that space a little bit more. All right, that is so awesome. I know that I personally am super pumped about attending this event now. I was anyway, but listening to the four of you has really sparked my interest in some areas that I didn't even really consider before that would be something that I might be interested in pursuing further. So I hope that people watching this have got a little bit of their appetite whet for all things happening in California over 2 big weekends. We have happening in July and the start of August on sale, so you can go to ca.gaifsummit.com/2017 and purchase your ticket, and we definitely hope to get the opportunity to learn with you there, and I hope that you will get the opportunity to go up and say hi to one of these 4 awesome keynote speakers, because they are totally amazing educators who are approachable, and I'm sure would love to have you come up and say, hey, I watched your Hangout and I just really wanted to engage with you around this, and share a new article with Rafranz, or you know, a new idea with Ken around the next big dating app. So thanks very much to Rushton, Rafranz, and Ken and Jennie for joining us today, and have a fabulous evening wherever you are in the world.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.